Welcome back to Alex Recapped. Have you ever peeked into the balcony of the house opposite? Today's movie is about people who are always curious to observe the neighbor's story that has led to strange situations. Let's see the movie. The story begins when Thomas and Tina just moved into their new dream apartment. The landlord's requirements are very strict. Do not punch holes in the wall or hang anything. Not even the curtains are hung up. So excited about needing a new home, they don't pay attention to the smallest details. In the evening, while they are talking, they suddenly saw the rays of light in front of their eyes. It was a photographer who was doing a set of photos for a model. They felt very curious. The couple opposite then immediately made love to each other. After enjoying perform, Tina wears sexy pajamas she has been preparing for her first night. Because the day of moving was so exhausting, Thomas fell asleep. Tina felt a little disappointed in her heart. The next day she and her boyfriend were curious to see what their neighbors were up to. The guy suddenly choked on his food, but his wife in the kitchen didn't know what was going on. Thomas about to run to help. The wife on the other side noticed something was wrong, promptly gave first aid to her husband. In the evening, Tina couldn't sleep and had to get up to drink water.
She also looked at the neighbors and saw that his wife was carrying a suitcase out too. The sleeping husband also came to the window to say goodbye to his wife. Tina's eyes looked on his body, her hand unconsciously reaching down to his body. One day, Tina was walking across a street and seeing a pair of binoculars on the counter. She came up with an idea. In the evening, the young couple, using binoculars, looked to the opposite. At that moment they saw a woman opens the door and enters. She is a model for a photographer. He took off his shirt so she wouldn't be embarrassed. After that, the model also boldly stripped her clothes. Then the guy and the model have romantic scenes. That night the wife returned home, but she didn't know her husband was cheating on her. The next day, Thomas and Tina met with friends and talked about the couple. Tina felt that was not enough, she wanted to hear their conversation. On the next day, just in time for Halloween, there was a costume party in the opposite house. Tina and her boyfriend disguised themselves to access. Taking advantage of when no one was looking, Tina glued some necessary tools inside the house. Thanks to this, they were able to follow the story of the other couple. After they got home, Thomas was about to set up the system. They heard sounds next house. They were very happy, but they heard the neighbor husband and wife arguing. The wife scolded her husband for going to the bathroom with another woman at the party. The photographer countered that she was just using an excuse to get a divorce. Tina and Thomas found this helpless. The next morning, Tina felt sad and remembered last night. While thinking, the landlady asked Tina to receive guests. Coincidentally, guest was the photographer's wife. It turns out that she came to change her glasses. She introduced herself as Julia. They talked very happily, even invited to go to coffee and spa together. In the afternoon, when Thomas was at home, he suddenly saw a photographer shooting for another model. After a while, he flirted with the other model. The girl eventually succumbed to his charms. When they got home, Tina told Thomas that she had met Julia at work. Tina was about to talk about the photographer's affair, but her boyfriend strongly objected. It was wrong for them to peek into other people's lives. Therefore, they should not interfere in other people's affairs. Then they had an argument. Thomas ran out of the house to relieve his grief. Then Tina took the binoculars to look at the opposite side. Seeing that Julia is wearing a sexy lingerie to try to please her husband, that the photographer was not happy and left his wife disappointed. At the weekend, Julia invited Tina to a famous spa. In the sauna, they confided in their lives and feelings. Julia's husband is Jep, a famous photographer. And Julia herself is nothing but her sweet husband. Tina wanted to tell Julia the whole truth, but couldn't. That night, Julia was alone in the living room reading a book. Tina sent a message to Julia saying that her husband was a traitor. Julia picked up the paper and looked around. Tina said her husband hid the condom in the trash. At this moment, Jep got up and went to the kitchen, but he didn't suspect anything and went back to the bedroom. Suddenly Thomas came out of the room and asked what Tina was doing. He realized she was telling the truth to Julia. After taking out the object from the trash, Julia put her hand over her mouth. Thomas and Tina once again argued about this. Thomas thought Tina's work was ridiculous. On the other hand, Julia took a knife from the kitchen and went straight to the bedroom. They are fearing that she would do something bad. But Julia put down the knife and did not kill her lover. The next day, they found Jep shaking his wife in the bathroom. It turned out that Julia could not stand it, so she decided to commit suicide. Thomas couldn't take it anymore, he blamed Tina. He chose to part with Tina, leaving her alone in this room. When returning to work, Tina lost her mind and called a customer to come get her glasses. Julia's name, she cried desperately and apologized. In the end, there was still no response. Winter came, Tina peering through the binoculars through the opposite building. Seeing Jep sadly drinking alone, then seeing him go down to the bar, Tina saw him and followed him. At first, she only dared to sit from afar and look at the guy. But Jep suddenly turned his head to see her looking at him. He came to her side. After talking, he offered to take pictures for her. To ease the guilt in her heart, she agreed with him. This was the first time Tina was alone with a photographer. She was feeling a bit nervous, so the photographer skillfully seduced her. Jep also took off his own shirt. He then started taking nude pictures of Tina. With his virtuosity, he coaxed Tina into bed. At this moment, Thomas is returning to the apartment with a bouquet of flowers in his hand.
But when he saw that his girlfriend was not at home, he drank his favorite drink in the refrigerator. But it was very difficult to drink, so he poured it out of the birdcage. He saw a scene. His girlfriend is in bed with another man. The next morning, Tina returned to her apartment. However, as soon as she opened the door, she found a bouquet of flowers on the floor, and Thomas hanged himself. She realizes that she has killed her lover and also Julia. She felt more pain than ever. Then her friend asked her to find the other photographer. At this time he was also surprised by Tina's appearance. Then they began to introduce the contents of the exhibition. He also invited a special guest for the night. Tina was stunned by this person's appearance. Because it was his wife, Julia. She stepped onto the stage with Jep. They began showing off pictures of Tina's life with Thomas. The first day, they came to check in until they used binoculars to peer into the neighbor's story. Not only watching their actions, Julia also faked her own death to create this drama. When she known the truth, Tina couldn't contain her emotions and went madly to the photographer's house. It turned out that they had another attic. All are pictures of Thomas and her in their apartment. She angrily tore the picture here, then Tina packed up. She didn't want to be here any longer. But then she noticed something strange in the cage. Inside was Thomas's drink, but there were dead birds. She noticed something unusual here. The photographer's creation has resonated, many people interviewed. They even received a bottle of wine to congratulate the success of the work. They drank without thinking. At this time Jep asked Julia, "Don't you feel guilty at all?" She coldly replied, "Not at all." They got text from Tina. Thomas didn't commit suicide, they killed him. They then discovered Tina on the roof of the building. They chased after her, and quickly Tina was cornered. She said that Thomas wouldn't kill himself over something like that. It was Julia who put drugs in his drink. When she fainted, she arranged it all. Julia says she has no evidence against them. But at that moment, they gradually fell into a coma. It turned out that the bottle of wine that was given as a gift was sent by Tina. She then took them to the eye surgery. They shine a laser at their pupils. At the end of the movie, another couple has moved into the apartment. But they accidentally saw the scene of the opposite building. Jep and Julia were now blind. Their eyes are extremely scary. The Voyeurs ends here. Goodbye and see you later.